Welcome back to Choose Your Master, God or Money. And we're looking at episode 7, which is titled Investing. Now, before we get into some of the ideas that I'm going to share in this episode, I want to reiterate again that this is not professional advice, but pretty much common universal truths or strategies. So let's go ahead and get right into it here. I have a number of bullet points that I want to discuss with you and bring before you. Let's start with this one. The reminder to discuss goals and objectives with your spouse. We talked about this in the planning episode some, but again, I'm coming back to it because I believe it is so important that you should not go ahead and make these decisions. Some of them will be short-term, maybe some are long-term, and you should not do that without your spouse being involved in that and having a buy-in on what you're doing. This will avoid, in the event things kind of go south or go sideways, this will avoid your spouse being blindsided or surprised, and that he or she would be right there with you and deal with it as it needs to be dealt with. The next thing to think about is risk tolerance and time horizons. So a time horizon would be you having to think about how far into the future you will need to access this money. Investments can go up, they can go down. Over a long period of time, if you have invested wisely, you will have a profit, you will have an increase. But in a short period of time, you may find yourself actually with an investment that has gone down significantly in value. So you would not want to take on a lot of risk if you have a short time horizon. So you would not be able to recover. But you would likely want to take on more risk and the potential for greater returns if you have a long time horizon. Younger people in their 20s, 30s, even 40s, they still have a long time horizon. Once you get into your 50s and 60s and you're thinking about retirement, that time horizon continues to shrink. And therefore, it would make sense that your tolerance for risk would shrink as well. But that's something to consider. How much can you handle there? And is higher risk investments going to make you a basket case? That's why I say, what can you stomach with this? Steady plodding brings prosperity. That's the proverb. 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." I think the wisdom from the proverb there is telling us that you should avoid, quote-unquote, get-rich-quick schemes. And instead of that, bit by bit, steady plodding, steady committing, let's say, a piece of every paycheck to your investment plan, and not trying to do these things in huge chunks to get huge returns. The next thing I would put before you is that you need to understand bonds and stocks. There is plenty of information that is available online. I'm not going to try to explain those to you, other than to say bonds are promises to pay back what has been borrowed, and stocks represent an actual ownership in a company, just a little piece that you get. But if the value of those stocks go up, then you're making money. They also might pay dividends. Some stocks do, some do not. And a dividend is a sharing of profits with the person that owns the stocks. So lots of info, like I say, available online. I would suggest also that everyone invest in an annual subscription to the Wall Street Journal and make it a habit of reading through the Wall Street Journal. I know that is probably very boring to many people, or maybe you don't think you have time for it. But I have found that so many people are just completely ignorant about the world of finances. And to that end, they miss out on an awful lot. The Wall Street Journal, if you get it through, let's say, eBay, you can probably find a subscription for $100 a year. That's not a lot of money. And there's so much to learn. Also, you should learn about and understand IRAs and 401ks. IRAs are individual retirement accounts, and 401ks are retirement accounts that are done through a business. Both of those opportunities to save are just tremendous because they give you the opportunity to not be taxed on the interest that is earned or the increase in value that is earned within those accounts. If you have the opportunity to start an IRA, it's just a must. Go for it. The next thing to consider has to do with timing the market. What do I mean by that? Well, over time, the stock market goes up, stocks go up in value, bonds change in value. They change every day. And during times when the market is down and your investment may be suffering, shall we say, in value, it is tempting to go ahead and sell at that time out of fear. When the market is going up and everything looks great, it is tempting to buy. My point is, I would suggest that you do not try to time the market, meaning that you're guessing whether the market is going to go up or down, or if it is up, that it will stay up, or if it's down, that it will stay down. That timing of the market and trying to decide whether or not you should buy or sell stocks, bonds, and so on should be left for the professionals. This podcast, I'm speaking to brothers and sisters I know in the Lord that are just like me. We're not rich people, but we can do well if we're wise, if we plan, if we get educated, and we do some investing. The Lord will bless that. So just a word there about timing the market. You should be looking instead at making investments that you'll stick with over the long haul, meaning more than 5 years and more like 20 years. Next point. You need to understand the wonder of compounding interest. That, again, you need to get online, look that up. Plenty of information there. It's not complicated, but essentially, if you have an investment like a CD or a money market fund or bonds, and you're taking the interest that is generating and paying you, and you're buying even more, reinvesting that interest, over time, it just grows in a magical kind of way. So you need to see that. You need to understand that. That needs to be part of your thought process when you're considering what kind of investment that you're going to want to have. Next, understand emergency funds. This is kind of an area that most people ignore, but you should have, at the very least, an extra 1 month's worth of cash, your living expenses. Most investing professionals, I'm not one again, but most of them will say have at least 6 months or even more. So if something happens in God's providence in your life where you need a large chunk of money and you have it all invested, or you have it spent and you're in debt or whatever it might be, and you need money, what are you going to do? Well, if you have investments, you may cash some of those investments in at the wrong time when they've lost value. And like I previously said, rather than hold them for the long term and not try to time things, that's very bad. This would be a situation where maybe the market was down, you needed the money, you had to sell. That would be a loser situation. Much better to have that cash set aside. The other thing that might happen is you might then just go into debt. People take cash advances on credit cards and that sort of thing, and that is very unhelpful. So wisdom would say, have some cash available at least a month. That's probably way too little. Several months would make even more sense. Next, depreciating assets like cars are not investments. I mentioned this in another episode. You take a car, brand new car, you drive it off the lot. It loses thousands of dollars in value immediately. Cars are depreciating assets. They do not grow in value. Now you might say, okay, there are cars that you can buy. Yes, but those cars are probably $150,000, $200,000 a year. People do buy those. They put them in a garage. They store them there, and in the years to come, yes, they could be worth more money. But that's not your average Joe, and I don't think that's anyone who is listening to this podcast. So, next, stay away from options. You can use options to purchase stocks or sell stocks. I'm not even going to get into what that is, but I would say stay away from it because it is not actually ownership of the stock. And there's much more risk there when you do option trading. That's just me. The other thing I would stay away from is crypto. Crypto is highly volatile, very speculative. Again, if you think you're going to get rich quickly, like many people did in the past several years, they lost their shirts in the process. If you want to invest in something that's highly risky, highly speculative, do it with a small amount of money that you know you can lose. I don't think that's necessarily good stewardship, but if you must do it, really limit your exposure there. And as I say, be ready and willing to lose that money and not look back. Next, I would suggest using a brokerage account and setting up a checking account within that brokerage account, getting a credit card and so on, all in one place. Something like a Charles Schwab or Fidelity. There are a number of companies that will do that for you. And you can have your investments and your money in one place and be organized and do business in that way. Proverbs 27:23 through 24 says, "Know well the condition of your flocks and give attention to your herds, for riches do not last forever, and does a crown endure for all generations?" Part of the meaning there is paying attention to your investments, and that is my point by having your money kind of in one place rather than in many different places. Get good counsel. Proverbs 12:15 says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice." And Proverbs 15:22 says, "Without counsel plans fail, but with many advisors they succeed." So let's talk about counsel a little bit more. 3 types of counsel. 1, biblical counsel. This is what this podcast is all about, providing you with Bible-based counsel. Psalm 119:24 says, "Your testimonies are my delight. They are my counselors." And Psalm 119:105 says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." So the Bible provides us with all we need to know through commands and precepts and examples. Again, 2 Peter 1:3 says, "His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him." Secondly, general counsel and education about the world of money. I already mentioned a subscription to the Wall Street Journal to get yourself educated. It is not a Christian publication, but a pretty close reflection of Judeo-Christian values. Just an excellent source of information and training on how to think about the world of money and investing. And third, secular counsel that may be a Christian, like financial planner. Some people like to manage their own money. Others really need a guide, either because they're not as disciplined or they just don't have the time to learn these things. So an example of a service like that might be Edward Jones. Edward Jones is a brokerage service company that works with their investors, meets with them and counsels them, and so on. So there's some ideas, lots of ideas about investing. Again, I did not get into the particulars. That's not my purpose here, and probably wouldn't be wise for me to do that. But there's so much that you need to learn. So again, discuss goals and objectives with your spouse. Think about your tolerance for risk. Understand your time horizon and how that relates to the risk you're willing to take. Don't set out to get rich quick. Be diligent and steady with your contributions to your investments. Understand stocks and bonds. Understand 401k plans that are done through employers. And the availability of IRAs. They are terrific. Don't try to be a stock market wizard and time the market. Understand the wonder of compounding interest. Have an emergency fund, at least 1 month of cash. Understand that there are some assets that are not assets, like cars. Stay away from options. That's not ownership. And use a source of a brokerage source or a company that can show you all your money in one place and help you with investments. And finally, don't forget to get good counsel, biblical counsel, counsel that educates you as well about the world of money, and even secular counsel where, Lord willing, you'd be able to find a Christian financial planner that could help you as well. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode.